What's up, Think Realty Nation? It's your host, Avi Gohar. Welcome to the Think Realty Show. I'm excited to be here today because we're talking about very, very specific things. Number one, how do you use low money down programs to house hack? Number two, how do you invest out of state? Number three, what are some systems that you can use to streamline your time as an investor? You know, there are a lot of things that might be distracting you, or there are a lot of things that you have to do as an investor every single day, whether it's cold calling, maybe doing some yellow letters, etc. There's a really, really long process to wholesale sometimes. How do you streamline some of these things? And last but not least, how do you find a good real estate agent? You know, everybody all the time, whenever you're going into a new market, talks about finding and building your team. So if you want to find and build your team, how do you do that? With us today is Brie Schmidt. I'll be bringing her on in a second, and she's going to answer some of these questions for us, and we'll have a couple of awesome conversations around that. But this podcast, look at that. What is a podcast? What's the difference between a podcast and a podcast? I don't know. My producer's right. My producer's laughing at me. All right. I don't even leave this in here. This is great. Okay. This podcast is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. You can learn more. Go to www.realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. All right, let's bring on Brie. Brie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Brie Schmidt. I am the managing broker of Second City Real Estate. We are a boutique brokerage firm in the Chicagoland area that works specifically with investors. I'm also an investor myself, as are all of my agents. Between us, there's 6 of us. We own just over 300 units. I myself own just under 100 units, both in the Chicago and Milwaukee market. And I'm also the co-founder of the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit, which is an annual event coming up in May. That is 2 days, about 400 real estate investors talking about everything real estate in a non-salesy, non-guru environment.
I love that. I love everything you just said. Non-salesy, non-guru, and you're an agent.
Those are the worst, aren't they? Those events,
yeah,
you're sitting there getting, buy my program, it's half off today. It's awful.
Right, exactly. Which is why at the end of this podcast, you can buy my $75,000 course at a 10% discount, and then Brie and I are going to split that, and we're going to Vegas. That's what
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. So appreciate that. The first thing I want to talk about is using some of these low money down programs to house hack. How does one get started with that? Because everybody has this idea of, well, geez, I don't want to put any money down when starting this process of investing in real estate. How do you do it?
Well, you have to put money down. The only no money down option is a VA loan, which you have to be a veteran for. The other options are there's a 5 or 3.5% FHA loan, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. That is a low money down option. The negative side to that is there's program fees, and you will get charged a monthly, what they call private mortgage insurance premium on that program. And then depending on the area, there's also 5% down programs as well that are less PMI, but they're usually only available in what they consider to be lower moderate income tracts. But house hacking really is using your leverage, right? Well, using as little money as possible to buy a property. So in the Chicagoland market, I'd say the average deal that we do is about $650,000. You're able to put less than $50,000 down. And at the end of the day, in 30 years, your tenants pay your mortgage and you have a free $650,000 house, not including any sort of appreciation. So there are plenty of lenders. Finding a lender that is familiar with these sort of programs and what we call house hacking is extremely important. We personally work with Guaranteed Rate here in Chicago. Our lender, Sam Sharp, is licensed in about, I think, 25 states maybe, but he's an investor himself. So the theme or the story is, finding someone that knows what they're doing and also invest themselves can only help you get further faster.
I really, really like that. And that's a really big testament to investing in your team and really getting to know them. How do you go about finding these people, right? You mentioned having the right team, of having the right lender, and now this lender also invests in real estate. Your entire network that you work with every single day, y'all are investing in real estate. You have a little less than 100 properties. You're probably going to hit 100 soon, I'm sure. And the folks that you work with, kind of the same thing. How do you go about building that? Two questions. One, locally. How do you go about building that locally if you're just getting started? Maybe imagine you stepping into your first-timer shoes. How did you do that?
Well, I was licensed. So really it came down to the website that I use is biggerpockets.com. They have a referral section at the top. You can find lenders, contractors, agents, or, asking on the forums, that sort of thing. Who do you use? Who do you recommend? Additionally, meetups. So, Chicago's got 1,000 different meetups, but finding a local meetup group that, again, no gurus, no pitching, right? You're not
Right.
just there listening to someone talk for an hour about their, buy it now program,
Right.
but finding a great RIA that has actual investors as well. The thing I love about investors is most of us love to, like, we're not in that mindset of, I'm not going to tell you my secrets because then you're going to steal my thunder. Most
Right.
investors are quite open. If they've got a great lender or a great attorney or a great contractor, whatever it may be, they're more than willing to share usually. Almost all my referrals over the years have come through friends or people I've met either through Bigger Pockets or through local RIAs.
So what I'm hearing is you've got to get out and you've got to go
Absolutely.
talk to people, because if you're just on your couch and you expect something to happen, ain't nothing gonna happen, right? Like you have to
Mhm.
get out, you have to get out there, you got to shake some hands and really understand, A, what your investing personality is, and then B, once you figure out who you are internally, then seeking that person or that group of people that also identify and resonate with your overall investing strategy. I think that's going to make a lot of sense too. I live in Atlanta. You're in Chicago. I like the warm weather whenever it is warm, and you happen to like the freezing cold. How do, let's say that I wanted to invest in Chicago and I was okay with the freezing cold. How do I do that? Essentially, I'm investing out of state. What do I need to do to invest out of state successfully?
The number one thing I think is to really learn the market. So when I was looking, I invest in Milwaukee, which is out of state for me. When I was looking at the Milwaukee market, before I even settled on Milwaukee, I was looking at Indianapolis, Kansas City, and Milwaukee. And what I did, which will go to my last question that I'm being asked, is how do I understand this market, right? And how do I find an agent to trust?
Right.
Um, because if I'm going to be dealing, I'm not going to be going there for every single showing and every single, that's take up too much of my time. But I need to fully understand what I'm getting into and doing my property due diligence. So what I did with each city is I looked for referrals, again, through online sources, found 3 agents I thought I would work with. And I called each one of those agents and said, hey, I'm coming into the market. I'm going to spend X amount of dollars. Like, let's say I'm going to spend $1 million in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I want to come out for the day and I want you to show me what you would buy. Right. And that was
Yeah.
a really interesting experience because they all took me to completely different properties. So I saw 3 different agents in 3 different cities and they all had different strategies, but I spent the whole day with them
Yeah.
asking them questions like, well, why do you think this is a good property? Right? Why do you think this is a good neighborhood? And you learn so much
Man,
from it.
yeah.
So I ended up buying in an area that none of them took me to, which kind of defeated the purpose. But because
But
when they think investor, they think like, oh, she only wants cash flow. Well, in those markets, the cash flow properties are in the rougher areas, and I don't want to invest in those areas.
right. So
So
are you generally then sticking to B areas, or are you sticking, because I know the entire strategy changes, right? If you are in a
absolutely,
C area, you could potentially have higher turnover. Yeah, you might have a little higher cash flow. Your properties aren't going to be as expensive. Your Bs are different than your As, which are different than your Cs. In Milwaukee, when you purchased, was that a B area, C area, or A area?
it was more of a C area.
Okay.
So it was more. It wasn't a high crime area. Um, it was just a. It wasn't a hot, cool area. So I would say it was
Okay.
borderline DC.
Okay.
And in those kind of markets, when you're doing that, I said my biggest advice to anyone that's thinking of doing that is you have to be able to scale quickly. When
Yeah.
you're dealing with cash flow properties, you are going to have, you're right, you're absolutely going to have high turnover.
Yeah.
It's the kind of market where I always say if their car breaks down, right, and then they can't make it to work for 2 days, there goes rent. It is that simple. Rent will not be on time. There's not enough savings to pay to have the car fixed or to pay to make it, to take a cab to work for 2 days. And then they get behind. And that's just the reality of the situation. So when you're dealing with those kind of markets, it's extremely important to have intelligent and competent property management, which is a whole nother podcast.
Yes, that's right.
But scale, right?
Yeah.
Scale is what's important because when, for some reason, when one unit goes, the rest of the units go in that building. And if that is your only property, you cannot sustain financially a 3-month downturn where it's, the tenants,
That's right.
take, so you have to have that sort of scale to A, be important to the property manager, but B, to help sustain the ups and downs that are inevitable with a C-class asset.
Totally agree with everything that you're saying. I had a very similar experience in Indianapolis. I flew to Indianapolis. It wasn't cold yet, so it was still like late summer and early fall. I love Indianapolis, such a great city. And I hung out with 3 real estate agents all day. One did not understand investing, so I'm like, nope, sorry, I'm gonna cut that meeting short, maybe like by 3 hours. The second one really understood it, and my requirement was bring a map. I want like a printed map that you'd get from AAA. I need a Sharpie and a highlighter, and bring a couple of listings that we're going to go see, and let's highlight on the map all the good areas, the bad areas, etc. And what I essentially had them do was do all the pre-work so that I knew what I was looking at. And while we were driving these areas, based on what was highlighted, I'm like, okay, cool, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, and I love Indy. And so my question to you, maybe this is a little bit of a tangent. You had to choose between, you said Indianapolis, Milwaukee, and what was the other city?
Kansas City.
And Kansas City. Why did you pass on both of those and go to Milwaukee instead?
No specific reason. It wasn't
Okay.
like I didn't like those markets. But, I said Chicago's a very, what we call a dense urban environment. And Milwaukee has that dense urban environment where it was very similar to Chicago. So I understood the market a little bit easier versus like Indianapolis and Kansas City are mainly single families
Yeah.
in a suburban market, in Chicago and Milwaukee, we don't really have that. So all of my investments are within, 7 miles of downtown, whether that be in Chicago or Milwaukee,
Yeah.
in what we would call like a dense urban environment. So lots of 2 flats, 3 flats, like small multifamily buildings. So I just kind of understood that market a little bit better. And I just had a feeling about it. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
explain it.
No,
Like
that's
it felt
good.
right,
So,
it felt right.
so okay, if I'm new, and you're talking about like this gut feeling, right? How do you develop that gut feeling? Because
That's a great
that's
question.
that's hard. Because
It's
you can
very
look
hard.
at all the data, you have all the rational stuff. You can meet with all the agents, the contractors, the lenders, the community bankers. You can go to the RIAs, you can go to the meetups, you can do all this stuff. But then if you don't like fall in love with like this idea that you can scale in Milwaukee, for example, then it's probably not going to happen. How do you develop that gut feeling?
So it's something that I talk with my clients with all the time. We get clients that come to us and say, I'm just looking to get started, right? And I always tell them at the end of the day, my job is to teach you enough about real estate investing so that when it's time to make an offer, you are 100% confident in it, right?
Right.
Like I will not talk you into a deal. My team will not talk you into a deal. If you're up at night worried about, is this the right deal? Do I have enough money? Like, what about the numbers seem tight, right? It's not the right deal for you.
Right.
But it takes time to get to that point. So one of the suggestions that I always have for people is, when you come to us, we show you examples. It's one of we want to make sure that you understand what kind of ROI you're going to get, what kind of price points you're going to get, what kind of condition you're going to get,
Yeah.
to make sure that your expectations are in line with what the market can deliver, right? And I always tell people, you could want, I want to spend, $200,000 and I want a 4-unit building that's to 8% cap rate. And I always respond with that I want a unicorn. That's cool.
Right. Well,
That
I
doesn't
mean,
mean,
yeah,
it doesn't mean you're going to get it.
right.
But
Let me just go to my backyard. I
yeah,
have like a stable of them.
nice. Um, but so it takes months. It takes on average, I said my clients takes on average 3 to 6 months of working with us to get to the point where you think that you're potentially confident enough to make a decision and make an
Hmm.
offer. Right. And part of that is getting, learning and getting your learning curve set and developing your gut instinct. So the advice I always give someone is use a website. Like we use Redfin here in Chicago because it's very easy to interpret the data that they provide for multi-units
Yeah.
and set up alerts. And every day set up alerts, whether that be on your morning, having your morning coffee or what before you go to bed, and just click through all the listings, right? Spend 20 minutes a day doing this. In the beginning, you're not really going to notice. You're just like looking at pictures. You're not really sure what you're looking at. But over time, you will start to notice things and be like, oh man, that rent's really high, or oh wow, that property is priced really right, and you'll start to see like, hey, that property went really fast, or this property is fitting. You just start to develop your own intuition, and once you get to that point, then you've kind of hit a much easier point of being able to make decisions.
That's right. So if I'm hearing you properly, what you're telling me is if I focus on something, I start to see some relative result.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like,
Awesome.
and you'll just be looking at pictures, you're looking at rents, like there's no real context,
Right.
but you'll start to develop the context because you just
Yes.
start looking at those things. So if that means, starting with a big area because you're not sure exactly where you want to start investing, and then, the next month kind of weaning it down and being like, okay, I tend to like these properties and I like these numbers in these areas,
Yeah.
and then refocusing your attention. That's only going to be beneficial for you in the long run.
Absolutely love it. Okay. So we've got to go.
Yeah.
And if this is a fun conversation for me. I feel like I could talk to you for ages about this stuff. And the next time I am in Chicago, I'm gonna look you up, and
Cool.
we've gotta meet and like keep talking about this because I think this is so much fun, and it just makes sense. I love
Come
the
out
way
to
that
our
you think
summit
about it.
in May.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. May 16th and 17th in Chicago. Come out to our summit.
Yeah. That would be a lot of fun. When is the summit?
May 16th and 17th.
May 16, 17. Got
So
it.
it's not going to be cold. We don't plan it in the winter because no one will come.
Right, exactly.
Uh,
As long as I land in Midway in O'Hare and my plane doesn't skid off the runway, I'm okay with
yeah.
that.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
just happened.
Yes. Right. Bree, how can we get in touch if we want to say hi?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn, Brie Schmidt, as well as Bigger Pockets. Or you can visit my website at secondcity-re.com.
Awesome. Bree, thanks so much for your time today. I certainly appreciate it.
Thanks.
Think Realty Nation, this next segment is brought to you by Norada Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Feel free to visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. So vacant housing is a very interesting thing. Adam Data Solutions did a survey. They recently released not a survey, sorry. They recently released a 2019 third quarter vacant property and zombie foreclosure report. Okay, I think I said that correctly. Okay, I did. And it found that there are roughly about 1.5 million U.S. single-family homes and condos that are vacant in the United States. And the top metros with the most zombie foreclosures, you want to know what they are? New York, New Jersey, Newark. It's number 1, which is absolutely crazy. Number 2, and if Brie's still on, number 2 is Chicago, Illinois. Brie, very interesting. Number 3 is Miami, West Palm, Florida. Number 4, Cleveland, Ohio. Number 5, Tampa, Florida. Number 6, Philadelphia. Number 7, Albany, New York. Number 8, Rochester, New York. And number 9, Baltimore, Maryland. And coming in at number 10, Jacksonville, Florida. So kind of take a look at it. This report's actually really interesting. You can go to thinkrealty.com, and this is the October 14th posting from Adam Data Solutions, and under investing strategies, the title of this is vacant housing. So check it out, and you might find some opportunity there. Got any questions? Get in touch. Go to thinkrealty.com, and we cannot ever make these podcasts possible without the help of our sponsors. Today's podcast is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. Think Realty Nation, you want to get in touch? Do it. Go to thinkrealty.com or find me anywhere online. Until next time, happy investing.